Delaney Jane. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So you were just about to tell me how you got into music, where it all began.
Yeah, so if we go back to the very beginning, it started off as me just writing poetry and, silly little poems I think my mom has still kept over the years. And then it wasn't until I was 14 when she rented my brother an electric guitar. And when he was out of his room, I snuck in and I turned on the amp and I started playing really quietly. And next thing you know, my mom pops her head in and I thought I was going to get in trouble. And she asked me if I wanted guitar lessons. So fast forward a couple years, I'm doing solo acoustic shows wherever I could, with my own original music, coffee shops, bars, whatever in town. And then I ended up.
How old were you when this started? Was this like high school or like right out of high school or?
This was 14. So I would have been grade 9 when I first started putting my poetry to music, which opened up so many doors for me. I'm like, wow, I didn't know this was possible, really. I didn't know it was something that was such a passion until I started actually putting my words to music. And then through high school, I was in every choir I could join. I took singing lessons and guitar lessons on the side. And then it wasn't until I was 19 when I discovered this private school for the performing arts in Toronto called the Randolph Academy. And it was a very intensive program, and they basically had 140 students at one time. So very selective, but I was lucky enough to be accepted, and that brought me to Toronto because I grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo, for anyone who knows, an hour west of Toronto. Yeah.
Yes.
But when I moved to Toronto, this is where it gets really interesting because I moved in next door to producer, DJ, and fellow songwriter Shaun Frank. So while I was going to this private school and, going through these rigorous courses, Shaun, I think he just like randomly heard me singing in the backyard one day and we started chatting. And from there, he was like, hey, I have this record I'd love for you to try singing on. And that was the very first song that ever got signed to Spinnin' Records. It was called In My Hands with Lush and Simon. But from there, we just kept making music together and doing collabs with other DJ producers all over the world. And so that spiraled into our collab with Borges, and then Oliver Heldens, Tiesto, Adventure Club, Cashmere, the list goes on. And because of this, I was able to not only pay my way through private school, but actually finish private school with money in my bank account when I was, all my friends were in debt. So I was super, super lucky in that regard. But I also got to leave school and immediately go tour with Shaun. And that, so yeah, I kind of came up in what started as acoustic guitar singer-songwriter led me into the EDM world, which then brought me back to myself. And I always knew that I wanted to share my stories. And, as much as I loved doing all these collabs and having the opportunity to tour the world and play some of the biggest festivals in the world, I'm like, okay, my heart is longing to, tell my own personal stories. So it was last November 22nd of 2019, aka a year from yesterday, that I put out my first album, Dirty Pretty Things. And I was feeling a little nostalgic yesterday. I'm like, wow, it's been a year already.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, so surreal. And yeah, the album is full of some of the most personal stories of my life. And the way I look at it was like, some of the most intense things that happened in my life up to that point. And so the EP this year, I kind of wanted to lighten things up a little bit. There was a lot of heavy subject matter peppered through the upbeat stuff on my album. So I'm like, man, before quarantine and lockdown and all of that hit, I knew that I wanted to put out some more upbeat music. But then March 12th, I remember I was in LA at the time, and we were, ordered to go into lockdown. And that's when I started really thinking about it. And there was this song that I had written at a Swedish songwriting camp called Somewhere Else. I'm like, man, if everyone isn't feeling that right now, like I need to be somewhere else, or like, I want to be somewhere else. And from there, EP took a life of its own and really just, it really just happened super organically. And here we are.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's kind of like, it's like a different take on the, there's the David Bowie turning into Ziggy Stardust, or like the Beatles turning into Sgt. Pepper, like becoming someone else. I love the idea of just being somewhere else. It's like 2020, somewhere else, or maybe a different time,
Yeah, right. Like take me in the future or somewhere in the past, but no.
Right. Take me back to 2019 or maybe 2021 at some point, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I'm a sucker for the synthy 80s inspired pop, and so I've been listening to your newest singles, and I love it. It's so fun. Love that nostalgic synthy music. So well done. And your newest one is On Paper, and I love that title. I love that premise. Tell me a little bit more about that song.
That song I actually wrote over a year ago, and it's funny, it was another writing camp here in Los Angeles, but I was lucky that day. The other writers really let me take the reins, and I sat at the piano and I started playing chord progression, and the first couple lines just poured out of me. And from there, the song almost wrote itself. But at the time, I think I was in such denial of like, this is about me and my situation right now. I was, in my head, I'm like, oh, we wrote a really great song. Little did I realize at the time that it was, something that was extremely personal to me and what I was going through. For those of, oh man, it's such a complicated, twisted thing. But so Shaun Frank and I ended up, after 3 years of friendship, we ended up dating for 3 years. Naturally you go on tour and you have one too many shots of tequila and things happen. But we had an amazing relationship. The unfortunate thing is that because we worked together, it was really hard to find that line between work and relationship. And so I found myself like literally, lying in bed at night, feeling this way of, man, this guy is so good to me. We're so perfect together on the outside. Everyone looking in would think that we're the perfect couple, but there's something missing here. And it's like, he's also my best friend. So, I didn't want to break his heart. So this song is very personal because it really is the story of kind of how I finally came to that realization of my own truth. And it took me a long time to listen to that little voice, our intuition that we so often ignore when we really know what we need, long before we sometimes make the move to follow through. But that's what On Paper is about. And the crazy thing is he produced it. It's like we're so close. He knows every corner of my heart, and he's such a good person, and I'm really lucky that he's also just so supportive of my art, and he wants me to express myself, and yeah, I think this song is such a beautiful yet heartbreaking and therapeutic portrayal of what so many of us struggle with, between that internal battle between your head and your heart, and like when something, it just isn't right for you, but your heart is so in it. It's such a common thing. I think everybody experiences.
Totally. Yeah, I think so many people have had, you know, that situation that seems right. Like, there's nothing obviously wrong with it, but for whatever reason, you know, it's just doesn't work for you at that moment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you know, aside from it always being an interesting story, you know, the relationships or whatever it may be behind the songs, I think that sometimes, I mean, that probably fueled both of you guys while creating it, which I think comes out in the song also. I was just having a conversation about you know, Fleetwood Mac, like they had like all these things going on in that band, like, and they
I
were
watched
making
the
such great
documentary.
music.
How crazy is that?
Oh, did you? I haven't seen it yet. Where is it on?
Oh,
What's it on?
I think it was Netflix. I popped in. I watched it with a friend of mine. So I walked in when they had already started it, but I think it's on Netflix.
Well, unless it's Echoes in the Canyon, which I did see, which I think has a little bit of that, or was it only a Fleetwood Mac
It was just
specifically
Fleetwood
doc?
Mac. Yeah,
Okay, I'll have to
I
check
think
that
it's
out.
in there. But yeah, the entanglements. It's pretty.
Yeah, or and then the other one was that we were talking about was No Doubt, you know, like she had to play with Gwen Stefani had to play with you know, her bassist who she was in, you know, a really serious relationship with,
Yeah,
and all those breakup songs on that breakout album of theirs. I mean, it's funny and awkward and all at the same time,
yeah.
and awesome, you know.
It takes some serious strength and unconditional love and solid friendship to power through that. I think Metric is the same. She was married to her husband for years, like maybe 10 plus years, and they divorced, but still play in the band together. I'm like, it's incredible. And people still look at us like, I don't know how you did it. And I tell them, well, it's
Yeah,
because we were best friends first. We were making music before anything
right,
else. It's like, yeah, it would be impossible to lose that.
right. Yeah, that helps, and it helps if both, you know, both people are just adults and cool, you know. I
Yeah,
think just some maturity, a lot of maturity.
exactly. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you want you now, and also Just Sex. Also, let's go from from, you know, a couple a serious song to songs that are, you know, a little bit more just about fun.
Yeah, so Want You Now, I wrote when I had the idea when I was touring. I did my first kind of major tour run last year where I was gone for 2 months, off and on. And man, you don't realize how hard it is being away from home and being away from your significant other until you literally are forced to be away from them. And you know, like thankfully we have FaceTime, definitely helps. But Want You Now is really about, you know, being away from the person you love and wanting to just feel them. You know, it's like, it's not enough to look at them through the screen. Like, I want to feel you next to me. I want to smell your skin. I want to like feel your hands and kiss your lips. It's like, it's, yeah, it's like physical, sexual,
Totally.
you know, it's that desire um, to be with the person you love. So that's where that song came about. And um, again, you know, whether you're a touring artist or you're in a long distance relationship, like, you know exactly how this feels, to be pulled away. And yeah, it's about like, I want you right now, not tomorrow,
Hmm.
not a week, right now, you know. So that one was super fun.
Yeah, I think regardless of your profession in 2020, everyone a little bit realizes what it's like to be on FaceTime and how that's now no replacement for actual physical human contact.
Hmm. Yeah. And we maybe take for granted how important physical touch and human connection on a physical level is until you don't have it for an extended period of time. So it then makes you
Yeah.
appreciate it a little bit more too.
Yeah,
You know, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
exactly. That's what I was about to say. And then Just Sex, is it, you know, does that title say it all?
Yep, it really does. Um,
Uh-huh.
I love doing interviews talking about this one because I'm like, honestly, it's It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when you reconnect with someone that you had history with, and it's like you see this person and there's just one thing on your mind. It's yeah, it was meant to be super fun, you know, fun to dance to, fun to sing to. And I particularly love this one because to me it has a bit of and I don't want to sound cocky in saying this, but it has like a bit of 1975 vibes, which
awesome.
huge
Yeah.
fan of. So yeah, Just Sex is definitely one of my fun babies. It was just fun to make, fun to sing, and it's gonna be fun to perform when I get to play shows again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So when do you think this is the 6-track EP still scheduled to come out December 4th, which is in not this Friday, but the following Friday?
Almost. We have changed the date, December 11th. So 1 week
December 11th
later. Yes.
Okay.
6-song EP. I'm so excited.
Nice. Yeah, that's why I asked, because a lot of change of dates nowadays in this pandemic weather we are in. But that's good. You still got some time before Christmas, before Mariah Carey takes over the airwaves for people to.
I'm not gonna lie, that's my favorite Christmas song. So I'm like, I can't even be annoyed. My favorite.
It's number one for a reason. Have you seen the chart of that song, like the Billboard placement of it, how it just like it pops up like every December, just like spikes up violently and then drops way back down?
I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna look at it. I can imagine in my head.
It's pretty awesome.
Wow, good for her.
I know. I mean,
have to work. Like if she didn't want to, she probably wouldn't have to put out any more music.
There's all these classic Christmas songs, and then she came out with one that's a new classic since the 90s, and you know, and it is a great song. So props to her. You know.
Yeah.
we need some more new Christmas songs.
Yeah, I mean, geez, it makes me want to put out a little Christmas album. But
maybe,
I feel like there's a lot of
next year
writing new Christmas songs because, like you said, the classics, people are very tied to the classics. We'll see.
Yeah, if you can make it stick, you got some, you know, then you got a perpetuating song every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth trying. Better to try than not.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Yeah, all right, so we might see one from Delaney soon.
Yeah.
So all right, so we'll look out for that, December 11th. That's going to have all these singles we just talked about, along with a couple we haven't heard.
Yeah, 2 brand new ones. Both still in that kind of 80s synthwave vibe. And
nice.
The one will be pushing to radio. So I'm really, really excited. And the one is a duet too. So nice little variety and nice way to kind of wrap up this EP.
Yeah.
With some more
yeah, like I said, I do love that. And the fact that you said you love the 1975, they got a little bit of that flavor in there, you know, a little bit, maybe not the more recent stuff, but a couple albums ago, a little bit of Taylor Swift's, what was it, 1987? Was that the name of the album, or 6? Was it 86?
Yeah, I think it was the year she was born. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was one of those years. I should know that. It's, you know, one of the most successful albums of all time. But I do like it. It's good. It's a good album. But you know, I noticed you mentioned Kim Petras as one of your you know, kind of reminiscent of her a little bit too. Charlie XCX. Also all great. You got a lot of great inspirations there.
Yeah, and for this particular body of work, I pulled a lot of inspo from Tove Lo. I love her, and she just pushes the envelope all the time. I love how risque she is, but yeah, lots of musical influences. I was gonna say influence and inspiration. I just meshed the 2 words.
Yeah. They're kind of the same. Yeah.
a little bit.
Inspirations, yeah.
Influations. Interesting. But yeah, I mean,
that's the new EP name.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does.
I listen to all genres of music, that's why when people ask me like, what are your biggest inspirations or what are you listening to these days, I find it maybe the most difficult question, because I'm like, I literally will wake up and listen to classical music, and then by the end of like
Right.
midday, I'm listening to Tupac, and then like I'm
Yeah.
listening to dubstep.
Yeah.
It's like I respect it all, you know. Good music is good music, and yeah.
100%. And I think that's more common now than ever before. I mean, thankfully, you know, there's there's a lot of critiques to be made about streaming music, but we are blessed. We can listen to any song that we want at any time of the day, as much as we want, you know, and that lends itself to having a wider musical palette, you know.
Totally. Yeah, it's not like you have to go to HMV and buy the CD anymore, which I do
Right.
think, no, honestly, but
I definitely miss it. I
having
definitely miss it.
yeah, yeah. I miss it because I would get a CD. Well, I'm sure we would all play it front to back while you're reading the inner pamphlet, memorizing all the words. And you're like, I am legitimately a super fan. I can sing this entire album. It's just
Yeah.
not singing anymore.
Totally. You used to put a CD in and listen to it like, and it would just be in your CD player in your car for, you know, 10 drives or something. As you'd listen to that album like over and over and over. So we're lucky we get to listen to so much music, but we take it for granted way more now, I think. And a little bit that has an effect, I think, on how much we value music. But big picture, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Delaney, tell us, we like to end the interview by asking you, if you had one piece of advice to offer aspiring musicians, what would it be?
Ooh, what do I wish someone maybe told me? I would say no matter what you're trying to do, always stay true to you, because it's so easy to you know, get lost in social media and get lost in the abyss of YouTube and compare yourself to other people and want to mimic other people. But I think the most valuable thing for any aspiring artist is to, you know, tell your own stories, be as authentic as you can, because people see that and people will always be drawn to that. So yeah, I would just say stay true to who you are.
Bringing it backward.